What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Survivor 48 Power Rankings. We are now 6 episodes deep into the season. We have 12 players remaining, so let's talk about each and every one of them and their chances to win the game based on their edit, their gameplay, and their game position. But before we get into the 12 players left, let's start with the boot from this week, which was Charity. And honestly, this was an extremely predictable boot here. This was maybe one of the most predictable results in the new era for me. I mean, Charity had nonstop negativity. The entire season was made out to look really foolish at every moment that they could. And this is somewhat typical for the Mergatory boot in the new era to just kind of dunk on them all season. And yeah, for Charity, I mean, she was really one of the worst players of the season, definitely, but really one of the worst of the new era, I would say. She does not survive a single tribal. Nobody trusts her the entire game except for Mitch. And she ends up just being very overconfident and getting sent home in a pretty ridiculous way. So yeah, for Charity, this was a bad season for her. I personally didn't even really like her as a TV character. And so yeah, this is like maybe the worst new era casting. I don't know. I gotta say it, but yeah. Let's get into the 12 players remaining. And we start off at the very bottom with Chrissy, who honestly I have kept away from the very, very bottom all season, but at this point it's just so little content. So she's just way too irrelevant in this story right now that I cannot imagine a world where she wins the game at all. I do think that she could potentially make it sneaky deep. I mean, I don't think she's a target or in crazy danger right now. It would have to be some bullshit that would send her home. And again, like she did have a solid enough premiere to where it's like it had me faith. It gave me some faith in her longevity, but at this point, she's not winning this game. There is not enough content, no storyline. I don't know. This is disappointing for Chrissy because I was excited for her going into the season, and right now she is purpled as hell, so she is at the very bottom of the power rankings. Going to number 11 now, we have Cedric, and Cedric has had a pretty weird season. Actually, an extremely weird season. He's been the decision maker in so many of these votes, and yet his edit still doesn't give him really any real depth, which is strange. It's so strange because I still feel like he's like somehow under edited, despite his relevance in the story and the narrative and the actual game of this season, but he doesn't get much credit for his moves at all. He isn't portrayed positively. I mean, we have a scene of him crying, breaking down crying because he felt like he let everybody down in the challenge, which has been a theme throughout his whole season. And it's like not really shown in a very even like inspirational light for Cedric. It doesn't even feel like this is leading to a comeback. I think Cedric is gone next episode. If you look at this split tribe that he's on, it has a lot of big characters, and I'm really worried for Ced. At this point, I don't think he's winning. I really don't see any world, so he's at the very, or almost at the very bottom at number 11. Going down to number 10, we have a player who is jumping way down on this power ranking, and that is Say. Say has been all over the place this season. She is a massive, massive character, incredibly overexposed, and these last few episodes have been rough for her. She's been portrayed quite negatively. She seems very just out of the loop at this point. Like in this merge episode, she felt like it felt like she did not know what was going on at all. She voted for Cedric of all people, which I have no idea what the implications of that are gonna be. But I don't think it was. It wasn't even really explained, so it just kind of makes Say look a bit confused at this point, which is not good. And then, of course, you have the scene with Mary where Say is talking about how excited she is to work with Mary again, and it instantly cuts to Mary contradicting that, saying she no longer wants to play with Say. And so all this stuff just makes me feel not good about Say's chances. I feel like this is just very clearly leading to a downfall, which could come as soon as next week. It could come as soon as the very end. She could be a losing finalist, but no matter what that result is, I don't think it's going to be a win at this point, which is unfortunate because I love Say. She's an extremely unique character and so fun to watch. And so I hope she sticks around for a while. But right now, she's such an easy prediction to go home next week. She's got to be way down on the power rankings here. Going to number 9, now we have a player who essentially had a bit of a breakout episode and jumps way up these power rankings, and this is Star. And Star is someone with a lot of variance right now in terms of her inevitable outcome. There is legitimately a world where this is the beginning of a winner's edit narrative for Star. I mean, in fairness, Rachel was at the very bottom of these power rankings going into the merge last season. She was under-edited and thrown to the side in the narrative, similar to Star. And now we're starting to see an uptick in Star's visibility, but also a bit of a narrative in terms of her being there for players at their lowest. We've seen it with Eva, now we've seen it with Cedric. And I think this is going to make Star almost a little bit untouchable right now. You can't really target Star if you're the majority loyalty alliance that is voting out the sneaky strategists. It would really contradict your values to target someone like Star. So you can see the world where Star is able to survive for a little bit longer, but at the same time, I just feel like she is so left out of this narrative overall this season, and her pre-merge was filled with, so much confusing content. We don't know really where she stands in the game right now. She isn't included in the majority alliance, and, it would take a big comeback for Star to win this game. So, of course, she's still relatively low, but I want to keep an eye out on her, and a potential, real narrative boost here could end up leading to her being an incredibly surprising winner, and I'm here for it because I love Star. Going to number 8 now, we have a player who's stayed around this same spot about all season now, and this is Mitch. And Mitch is a player who has not played a good game so far. He's been on the outs of both of the tribals that he's been to. He lost his number 1 ally. He's voted for Say back-to-back. And I don't expect Say to forgive him at this point. And it leaves Mitch very much in a bad position in the game. But despite that, he's had a good edit. He's been included in this storyline. He's been given a lot of positivity. We know what he's thinking and where he stands. And I like that for Mitch. It makes me feel like he's going deep in this game. Now, is Mitch going to win? It would take a massive turnaround from a gameplay perspective. But I don't want to rule it out entirely. I actually do think that this is possible. I think his pre-merge, at least edgically, was kind of similar to New Era winners. And I just think that it is a possibility that Mitch kind of makes it a bit deeper than it may seem right now. You could see like a losing finalist, like a 0-vote finalist path for Mitch, right? Like the good positive pre-merge, and then falls out the loop, and then it's a bit of like the Romeo, Jake, Ben type of pathway afterwards. And so that's obviously possible, but for Mitch, honestly, the edit's still there, so I have him at 8. At number 7, we have a player who's coming off another very good episode, but I still just don't feel confident in them being the winner, and that is Kyle. And I know a lot of people have Kyle very high. I do admit he does give winner vibes, honestly, just the way he's talking. He's in a great position right now, infiltrating the majority alliance while still having his, real core alliance with Camilla on the outside. And so that's all amazing stuff. He's had great strategic narration. But I'm almost out on Kyle, honestly. I just feel like there is so much personal content that is missing from Kyle's edit right now. And this is a similar trope to a lot of New Era losing finalists, or kind of just like strategic bosses of the season, the Charlies, the Sams maybe, the Austins, players who get a lot of strategic narration, but their edits end up being pretty shallow. You don't really feel like emotional, personal connection to someone like Kyle right now, who honestly is just not getting that type of content. Even with his dynamic with Camilla, it's kind of just strategic right now is how it feels. And so I don't love that for Kyle. I want to see a lot more from him, but of course he is in a good spot and he's a good player, so I'm not going to have him at the bottom, but I would, it's not looking like a winner's edit to me, so I have him at 7. Going to number 6 now, we have a player who had a weird merge episode, and I don't know what to do with them, but this is Mary. And I haven't known what to do with Mary all season, but right now she's in this weird middle ground spot of number 6 on the power rankings where, yeah, I could see a world where Mary wins. But am I being biased because I love Mary, or is this actually being shown to me? I don't know. She did come into the season calling herself a walking contradiction, which is one of the things I liked about Mary. But, her scene talking about wanting to distance herself from Say, just to, work with Say this episode and, kind of save her and not vote her out. It feels all weird, and it feels like her narrative was so centered around working with Say and coming together with her just to immediately kill that right at the merge when they meet again. And it's weird, right? I don't know how to feel. She's also a bit quiet in the edit this episode and these last few episodes. It's been a lot of good secret scenes, cut scenes from Mary, which make me feel a little questionable. And just overall, I kind of feel like this is more of just an underdog edit where Mary is going to inevitably come up short in the end. I could still see like, the fire making loser, or just like, a deep endgame threat that doesn't make it all the way, I think is probably the path for Mary. The edit's just a bit too weird for me to commit to it right now, but I want to believe, so I have her at 6. At number 5, we have the person jumping up the rankings the highest this week, and that is Eva. And it's not like Eva had like her best episode of the season even. It was kind of more of like a cool down episode for Eva in a way, but I like that from her. And the reason why she's jumping up this ranking is because I'm kind of realizing that these big, grand moments that Eva's had this season, they did happen and they were real. And I don't necessarily think that it should knock her out of contention because she's overexposed, which was kind of my logic earlier this season. And I don't agree with it anymore. I think there is some negativity portrayed with Eva, especially around like her not wanting to work with women and her creating this, alliance off of strength, but it's just like all the dudes, and it's weird, right? But at the same time, like, negativity isn't a killer in your edit, right? We've seen negativity from New Era winners before, particularly like Kenzie or Gabler. It's not impossible for Eva to win. In fact, if she did win, this is probably exactly how they would portray her. And so while I do think it's more likely that Eva is kind of the first from this alliance to be sniped because she does have an idol and her relationship with Joe is so public and so threatening, I still think, she's in a great position right now. She's a powerful player and she's having a huge prominent edit that's mostly positive. So, in a season where the edit has been, pretty weird and unpredictable, I feel, somewhat confident that Eva is a major player and a major character at least, so she's going to be up here at 5 where there's a world that she does win. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the player who's probably the main character of the season right now, and this is David. And I don't know how to feel necessarily about David. Do we really think he can win the game? I mean, this episode was kind of weird for him where he talks a lot about he feels like the shields and the, big physical, loyal players, as he puts it, are targeted and taken out, and the sneaky strategists of the world are rewarded. Is this justification for creating an all-male alliance where he can skate by to the end? Probably. And honestly, I don't really think this makes him look very good, especially when Jeff calls him out like, you don't even know really what this show is. Like, you've only seen a couple seasons and you haven't even been to Tribal and you're trying to act like you're trying to change the game. It feels very old school, right? And I don't necessarily think it's going to work. I think that this type of mentality it could get you to the end, maybe, but when you get there, you're going to have to admit that you did kind of betray your morals and your overall, story of I want to stay loyal and I want to play an honest game. It can't possibly work. You'll get Mike Turnered in the end, where people will call you out for your hypocrisy and you'll lose the respect of the jury. So either David will have to shift this mentality, or he's just going to get blindsided, or is playing a losing game right now. And I wouldn't be too surprised if he's a losing finalist. It would make sense from an edit perspective. So I'm not feeling great about David, but at the same time, like, he has so much content, so much strategic narration that it's like he's involved in everything. Every episode is a new David subplot. It's a new, and I have to have him high here, but I feel so weird about David's edit. Coming in at number 3 now, we have a player who I've been wanting to put at number 1 all season now, but I just can't do it yet, and this is Camilla. And for Camilla, I'm really just waiting for that breakout. I'm waiting for the content to start coming. I still have not seen enough from her. I don't know what is going on in her game. I haven't really heard her perspective enough. I haven't heard, like the personal content and the really exposure in general that I want to see from my winner, right? And so while Camilla is in a great game spot, right, she's protected by Kyle, who's infiltrated the majority alliance and, will work with Camilla deep, and I feel confident in that duo. I still have not seen enough from Camilla individually, and I feel like while, yes, she is, in a good game position, she, got a lot of credit for Kyle's idol move, which was great for her edit, I still just don't feel confident enough about, like, do I know who this person is? And I feel like that is very concerning 6 episodes deep. The merge episode is an important episode to a winner's season, and Camilla did not get a focus that I really was waiting to see, and it didn't happen. So I have her at number 3, but, any moment now, she could jump up. Coming in at number 2 now, we have a player who I've seen a lot of people put at number 1, but I'm not entirely ready to do that yet, and this is Joe. And for Joe, obviously, great edit. A ton of all the right content, right? Everything that Joe has gotten has portrayed him very heroically, very positively. We know where his relationships are. We know where he stands in the game. He has this big scene with David where they're talking about changing the game and taking each other to the end. And that's all great stuff, right? My issue is that I do feel like Joe is portrayed as kind of just like this, massive hero in the game. And I don't know. Maybe it's a little too good to be true for me is really my rationale. Maybe I'm just feeling my number 1 a little bit more. Of course, there's a world where Joe wins, but I think there are some I'm just a little sussed out about it. I think that it's a bit too heroic, that it kind of feels like Joe is going to come up short, especially with some questionable gameplay. But overall, there's no point in nitpicking Joe. I mean, he's having a great edit. He's having a great season, and I do think he's in it for a very long time. So number 2 is definitely possible. All right, moving on to number 1 now, where it's just where I have Shaheen again. I've had him here all season, and I'm starting to feel a little bad about it. Maybe it's because I just watched that sneak peek where he says, "I can win this game," and that's just a death sentence. I don't like hearing that, but I'm just going to wait to see more context before I let it affect the power rankings here, because Shaheen had a great merge episode. He honestly has had a great, last couple episodes, and yeah, his episode 4 was pretty bad. But at the same time, it's like, they are putting a lot of effort into Shaheen's edit, and I'm noticing that. And I feel like he is a power player right now in a great position. I don't know what the hell is going to happen with him next episode. Something involving Kyle and Camilla framing him is going to happen, and we'll have to see. They are on the same split tribe, so yeah, I'm worried for Shaheen. And honestly, the more I think about it and the more I, hear myself say Joe is not number 1 because it's too good to be true, the more I feel like I might be biased with this ranking. But again, I really am I'm seeing it be written out in front of me how I would write a winner. And Shaheen is just such winner vibes that I want to believe it so badly. He's in a good spot. Okay, I will say though, his relationships do not have enough highlight, and they do not have enough importance, right? We have not seen the actual depth to any of his relationships in the game right now. In fact, we've seen more content about like Kyle calling him sneaky, right? And shit like that, where it does kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe Shaheen is kind of like the final boss of this season, but I do feel like he's important, and I really do feel like he is going to make it deep, and I want to pick him as my winner because it feels like I see the narrative more than I see it for anybody else, but there are legitimate flaws that I don't want to ignore. So he's 1 for right now, but like I'm very I'm very willing to move him down as soon as we start, as soon as we get more context to the sneak peek, because I mean, yeah, that does look pretty bad. But that'll do it for this week's video, guys. Thank you for watching. I gotta say, I did not enjoy the last episode of this season. The Mergatory is such a weird-ass episode every single time. I feel like the challenge is so ridiculously long. I feel like, and not even entertaining, honestly. Like, I do not care for these challenges this season. And then also, like, the whole content of this, like, Strength Alliance and this Integrity Alliance, I'm not vibing with it. It feels really out of touch and biased, and it feels like there's weird selections for who gets to be in the alliance and who doesn't, and it's all a bit icky to me. I don't love it. I think the episode was extremely predictable for Charity to go home, and even like little shit like Say and Mary not actually clicking kind of just threw me off, and I didn't like it. I don't know. I did really like Star this episode. I'll give her my player of the week because I thought her scene with Cedric was so amazing, but outside of that, I thought that this episode lacked a lot of those, real personal moments. So to me, this was the weakest episode of the season. But overall, I still feel good about Survivor 48, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next week.